Okay, Mayor, we're
15 seconds it is, yes.
okay. Thank you.
Welcome to the Tuesday, July 21st regular meeting of the Walnut Creek City Council. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Brown Act as currently in effect under State Emergency Services Act, the Governor's Emergency Declaration related to COVID-19, and the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20 issued on March 17th, 2020, that allows attendance by members of the City Council, city staff, and public to participate and conduct the meeting by video conference. Video conference locations are not open to the public. As sub-attendees may be participating in their first Walnut Creek City Council meeting or their first teleconferencing meeting, I want to welcome everybody and talk briefly about the public communication process. For each agenda item, there will be an opportunity for public comment on that item. If you desire to speak if you desire to speak to that item on the agenda this evening, please hold your comments until the council considers that item. Additionally, we have a section on the agenda titled Public Communications, which is for public comments for items that are not, that are not on the agenda. Any comments during public communications should not relate to an item that is on the agenda this evening. When I open the public comment period, use the raise hand feature or press *9 if you're connected by audio only, which will alert the staff that you have a public comment that you would like to provide. Please wait your turn, and once brought into the meeting, state your name and your city of residence for the record. As the council is conducting these meetings via video conference, and given the COVID-19 pandemic and the increased number of speakers that have wanted to make comments on various issues during our meetings, and consistent with city policies related to public comments, each speaker will have 2 minutes to make your remarks. The council will accept oral comments, and written comments submitted have been posted to the city's website and are included with the meeting records, but are not separately read into the record. To provide a live remote public comment, join the Zoom video conference meeting. The meeting ID and password are 949-7363-8266, and I am definitely going to repeat that. The meeting ID number is 949-7363-8266. The password is 974589, repeating 974589. Should you choose to not provide comments, or if your item is going to be up later in the evening, you may want to do one of the following ways to look at the meeting. You can do it by visiting the City of Walnut Creek's YouTube channel, and that's YouTube Live. Then you could also choose to watch it on cable Comcast Channel 28, Incorporated Walnut Creek only, Rossmore Channel 26, Wave Channel 29, and AT&T Uverse Channel 99. Or you could watch the live stream on the city's website. That being said, it is now time to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for doing that. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Francois.
Here.
Councilmember Silva.
Here.
Councilmember Waddell.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilk.
Here.
And Mayor Haskew.
Here. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. Does any council member wish to pull an item for discussion? I have an item that I wish to pull for discussion, and that is item I. Is there anybody else? I see none. Does any member of the public wish to comment on an item on the consent calendar? If you do, please use the raise hand feature or press *9 if you're connected by audio only. And I am noticing that we do have a couple of hands going up. City Clerk, will you please invite the speakers in?
Sure. First, we have Scott Rafferty.
Good evening, Scott.
Hello. The grand jury naively asks you to overhire the police, naively assuming that every town and city should have the same staffing ratio, officers per population, without regard to the incidence of crime. This is illogical and contrary to the public interest. The city's response makes the surprising disclosure that the city somehow already allows overhiring of 4 officer positions in excess of the levels publicly authorized by the elected council members. In many states, county supervisors appoint a sheriff who is accountable to all parts of the county and spreads the higher cost of fighting crimes in urban areas. Unfortunately, California's constitution doesn't allow that. Most urban jurisdictions incorporate and assume the full cost of public safety within their boundaries. As demonstrated in the report, police staffing in Richmond and El Cerrito is much higher than in Walnut Creek. Imposing this burden on taxpayers in urban jurisdictions is socially unjust, but overhiring police in suburban jurisdictions is not the solution. It is illogical and wasteful. The report noted that many cities laid off police during the 2008 recession. As we face a $12 million deficit, the police must again participate in the layoffs that have decimated all the other social services in Walnut Creek. The city manager has said that the extraordinary power of the police our police are immune from oversight, from staff utilization or other financial scrutiny. In recent history, they've never provided a budget justification. Contrary to response F2, low staffing ratios or unfilled positions have not reduced or eliminated school resource officers. As R4 and F3 admit, the police are fully staffed. Still, school resource officers provided the pretext to divert parking revenues to the police, supplementing the 46% of the general fund revenues they already consume. The city manager has no basis to agree that with F2 that unfilled positions have contributed to increased response times. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Next speaker, please.
Lucas Carboni.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, this is Lucas Carboni, a lifelong Walnut Creek resident, he, him. I'm calling in support of the consent calendar, particularly items C, D, and J. Regarding item J, I oppose any attempts to hire more cops and support the council's decision not to do so. Some correspondents cited comparatively low cop to civilian ratio in the events of May 31st and June 1st as reasons to hire more cops, but I couldn't disagree more. Not only does our city have a much lower crime rate than the national average, as Scott pointed out, but all evidence shows that police nationally and locally are overfunded and that the police can't prevent crime. They only police crime. A better use of police funds would be social services addressing the causes of crime head on, summarized in a resident slogan to defund WCPD and reinvest in community. I don't think what happened on May 31st and June 1st speaks to the need for more cops. On May 31st, the cops did virtually nothing to stop the looting, and the response on June 1st was a disaster. Cops using tear gas, a chemical weapon whose use is a war crime, according to the Geneva Convention, on 14-year-olds and 16-year-old amputees on the freeway, or peaceful protesters at Civic Park just because they're out after 6 p.m. Rather than increase funding, we need to fire Curtis Borman and Miles Hall's killers, defund the police, and reinvest in the community. I support item C, but we need to make the shelter permanent, taking funds from police response to homelessness and moving towards a service-focused housing first response to homelessness rather than criminalizing our unhoused neighbors. I also very strongly support the affordable housing development and call for more developments like this one in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Michael Sampson,
Hey, can you hear me okay? This is Michael Sampson. I'm calling to speak in agreement with some of the other people who have already spoken. I agree with the council's decision not to hire any more cops, but you've heard from me before. I think we definitely need to have less cops in general. So I think right now we're actually overstaffed as it is, so we shouldn't be hiring more cops. I think we should be firing cops. We have several cops that need to be fired, like Curtis Borman, like the officers who killed Miles Hall, like their supervisors. So we should fire those officers, not consider hiring new ones. I would also agree that according to consent calendar item C, that we should take that home. We should make the homeless shelter permanent. I don't see why it needs to. If it can functionally operate between October and April, and it's been doing so for several years, functioning as a homeless shelter for those months, then I don't see why we can't make it that a permanent change. So I say, and I don't think Walnut Creek needs an armory either. Why do we need to have an armory in downtown? I say let's get rid of the armory and replace it with a homeless shelter, something that we actually have a need for. And whatever money we're spending on the police homeless outreach program, let's just give all that money to Trinity Center, because they're going to be able to do a lot more with that money, a lot more good, a lot more efficiently than anything the police are going to be able to do in terms of homeless outreach. So I think if we're trying to use that money efficiently and compassionately, then we should take the money that's currently being spent on police homeless outreach and spend it on the Trinity Center instead, and then allow the Trinity Center to operate year-round, 7 days a week, in where we currently have an armory, and let's just get rid of the armory because we don't need to have one. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next, please.
Joshua,
Hello. I'd also agree with the previous callers, and I'll talk on a few of these items. On item J, the police officer recruitment report. Once again, it's good that you recognize that now is not the time to hire more cops, but we're really looking for more than that. And why do we hire for police officers, overhire for police officers? Do we overhire school counselors? Do we overhire social workers in this community? Do we overhire housing advocates? Do we overhire drug addiction specialists? Do we overhire mental health professionals? Why are we privileging cops over all these other essential workers that could actually make a difference in this community? We just laid off 14 arts positions in the atrocious budget that you passed 2 weeks ago. And I think this shows just how out of sync this council is with what the community needs. On the Trinity Housing Shelter, it is great that this is happening, but what's going to happen, when the weather gets warmer? Are we just going to throw these housing insecure individuals out on the streets and let them, face the elements again? That's frankly inhumane, and it really should be, if we can do it for half the year, it should be a year-round permanent thing that this community provides for our most vulnerable residents. And finally, on the item D, the affordable housing expenditures, thank you. This is very important, and we need more of this. And we also need mixed housing, where integrates people of different incomes together. So we just don't throw all vulnerable members of the community in like one housing unit. That's not how we build strong community. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Joshua.
Flynn, Kenny,
No, unmute. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. I want to share my perspective and completely disagree with the individuals that just spoke. It's completely naive to think that our community does not need police. And in fact, I've lived in Walnut Creek most of my life. My parents have lived here most of their lives, and I have never experienced or seen so much crime in this community as I have over the last 6 months. I do not want any police officers, any staff reduced. And I don't appreciate people speaking about Miles and his family that don't know them. I know his family. I know 6 of his neighbors. I know the family that Miles knocked on their door and said that they needed help. I know what happened in that situation, and I don't appreciate people speaking about it that don't know the facts, that don't know Miles' history. It's a tragic situation, but you have absolutely no right to blame it on the police in our community. I know that there are many families that agree with my perspective, and this discussion is not ending here. I'm very passionate about this. I know that many families in the community are passionate about this topic, and thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Ron Giglio,
Ron?
looks like we're having technical issues. We'll go ahead and bring, oh,
There he is. Ron, unmute, please. Ron, we can't hear you. Please unmute.
My name is Ron Giglio. I live in Walnut Creek. Do not defund the Walnut Creek Police Department. I've been a resident and homeowner in Walnut Creek for 46 years, and am one of what I believe is a majority of residents who firmly and without question reject the need of any plan to defund our police. In 15 years of volunteering for the city, I have met and worked with many police officers, including supervisors. They are a capable, well-trained team who safely protect and serve residents and visitors. According to our current grand jury report, our police department is staffed below the average California police department. Given the city's role as a shopping and dining hub, we need to staff up as soon as funds are available. Simply put, do not defund our police department. Instead, support these dedicated men and women for doing a difficult job very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vince W.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, Vince, please speak.
Thank you. My name is Vincent Welch, and I've lived in Walnut Creek for 33 years. And I support everything the gentleman before me said. I think Walnut Creek enjoys a good, safe community simply because of the quality of our police force. I have read many articles about defunding the police, having a social worker deal with domestic violence, or a civil employee of some sort doing traffic stops. And I would point out to those individuals, and the city council, I suspect, is already aware, those are among the most volatile circumstances that police officers encounter. If a civil officer pulls over somebody for a traffic stop and they happen to be a felon behind that wheel, what's going to happen to that poor civil officer? Or the social worker who goes to try to resolve a domestic disturbance and it turns violent. The police are going to have to get involved anyway. So I understand the need for more social support for mental health and the like. I think defunding the police department is the wrong way to go. That is not a path we should follow. And I will yield the rest of my time to the next speaker. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. It's not exactly the system, but we appreciate your brevity. Next speaker, please.
Vivian McHenry.
Uh-oh. Can you all hear me? Oh, and see me. There we go. Hi. So I would like to say that I agree with what some of the last caller just said. Vince, I believe, I didn't catch his last name, but people like Vince who seem to be extraordinarily reasonable and can at least concede that there are some changes and some reform that are needed. I think we hopefully can all agree that people don't deserve to, especially people who are mentally ill, who are not criminals, who are violent criminals, who are not, hurting anyone. They don't have a history of violence, that they don't deserve to be gunned down. Hopefully we can all agree. People like Vince, who seem to be able to at least concede that there's some sort of change that is needed. Those are the types of people, really all kinds of people, that we, and I'm Vivian McHenry, I'm with FOSAT, that we invite to come to contact us, talk to us. Let's have a conversation, because I think there's a disconnect. We think that there's a disconnect, and there's some sort of perception that these things are mutually exclusive. They don't have to be. It's not about whether you have no police at all, which I don't think anybody is advocating for. We're certainly not at FOSAT. And it's also not about over-policing, and what we mean by that are, certainly demilitarizing the police. I don't think that we're the military, we're civilians, and we don't deserve to be met with militarized force. And the cost for that is extraordinary and overkill. You don't need to meet and address people in flip-flops and holding up cardboard signs with armored rescue vehicles and tear gas and police dogs. There is such a thing as diplomacy. There are examples in Flint, Michigan, where the police chief kneeled down with the protesters in solidarity, and that whole thing went viral because of his decision to handle something differently and to be less of an enforcer and more of a communicator and somebody who is diplomatic. Also, I'll just say to that caller who said that that nobody should be talking about Ton Hall and Miles Hall. That's extraordinarily disrespectful and insensitive. To just reach out and learn more about the situation. Sorry for going over. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Dan H.
All right. Yeah, I just want to pick this part about defunding the police. Let's just start off really simply and just defund them $172,000. That's all we want. $172,000. Oh, that's all I want. $172,000. That's the salary that Curtis Borman. Everybody in Walnut Creek land, go ahead and type in your Google, Officer Curtis
Borman, B-O-R-M-A-N, 31 falsified reports. Officer Chaplin said I was going to fire him, but no, 31 times he lied on a report, and he's down at Walnut Creek schools teaching the DARE program. Let's defund the Walnut Creek Police, $172,000, and start there. Everybody in the city, please go on your Google and Google Officer Curtis Borman, B-O-R-M-A-N. Let's follow the chief's advice and fire him. And then we can get on the right foot and start negotiating for the rest of the defunding. But
Dan,
Google,
Dan,
Google,
are you
Google.
linking, Dan,
Yeah.
are you linking this to the jury report?
I'm linking this to the defund the police. I want to defund the police.
Okay.
Yeah.
It needs to be.
All right. Well, everyone else is talking about defunding the police. I'm not the only one.
Well, no, but they were talking in relationship to hiring. You can come back.
Yeah, I know. We don't want to hire anymore. Let's get rid of one and then hire a good one. Let's not do a bad apple. Let's get a good apple in there.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not arguing.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Jem Berry. No. Nicole Sullivan.
Hi. This is the first time I have ever attended a meeting of this such, and the reason why I'm not prepared, I don't even have makeup on or my hair done, but I am sitting here because I am a mom. I am a mom of 3 teenagers in Walnut Creek. And we've lived here since 2007. One of the reasons we chose this community is because of the strong police and the great streets. We have the best streets in the area, but our police department, anytime I've needed them for any reason, they come. I grew up in Fresno. Fresno does not have the same police force. A lot of money to live in this town is because of the safety that we feel. It's a safe place to raise children because of the police force. And I fully support my friends that have spoken before me. I do think we should continue to staff the police and make it a major priority of our community and keep our children safe so that they can live in a safe environment before they go out into the world. So thank you so much for hearing me. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm completely unprepared and this is very spontaneous. Thank you for all your efforts.
Appreciate it, Nicole. Thank you. Next, please.
Adam Neiman.
Hi there, can you see me?
Yes.
Great. Hi there, my name is Adam Neiman, pronouns he, him, his. I am a resident in Walnut Creek. And I just wanted to, first off, support Articles C, D, and J on this agenda. And I also wanted to, in pursuing the ideas that have sort of been spoken, and particularly about funding around police, I want to further emphasize taking money away, defunding police, the Walnut Creek Police Department. I know that the phrase defund the police, I think a lot of folks, it says my internet connection is unstable, hopefully you can still hear me. I know that defund the police, I think, is a lot of the time conflated with the idea of abolishing the police. And I just also want to at least put out there that my understanding, I've learned a lot about defunding being about really taking some of those resources and putting them elsewhere, particularly towards social programs. And the idea is really to
not just get rid of the people being able to stop crime, but be able to stop crime at the root, right? And I think that that's a really valuable thing for us to keep in mind and to consider. In addition, there's been a lot of talk about keeping communities safe, and I also just want to put out there, safe for whom, right? I mean, I think that certainly for the folks who are having moments of mental instability, and for folks who have more of a fraught history with the police, particularly BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, I would push back that more police does not necessarily feel more safe for some of those communities. In particular, Walnut Creek has a population of about 2% of Black people in the community, and versus the national average of 12 to 13%. And so that's something that I'm really concerned about and want to think about how to welcome those communities into our community so that we can really have a more diverse and expressive. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I didn't hear the time go off. Thank you so much. Thanks for hearing.
Town Hall.
Hi, Tom.
Hello. Hi, yes, I wanted to address the defunding the police issue. And it seems like this is the appropriate place to do this. Is that what you guys are talking about right now? Okay.
Not really, but.
Okay, yeah. So we've been coming here for the last 13 months speaking to you guys and talking about how we want there to be something different. We want change to happen. And now that this defunding the police is now kind of on the table, it makes sense. And it makes sense because we're not wanting to defund the police. We just want to take money away and allocate it to different programs. I've heard several people speak today, and I understand, we also felt the same way, that the police were strong and we felt confident in calling them for our son's safety. So you guys maybe haven't been in that situation where you needed to have someone help your child. So I just want to make sure it's understood that taking money away, reallocating money is super important. And then that's why we know that as the city council, the leadership now, you guys are showing up, that you guys are showing that you're going to be taking some money away, and that we need to also bring in the county to also make change. But I did want to make sure that it's clear that Miles didn't have a history that you guys aren't aware of. I heard that woman, Lynn Kenny, speak, and that's not, you don't have all the facts, because my son didn't have any previous problems. The only problems he had is he had mental illness and he didn't understand, and we had to call the police when we needed help. So I just want to make sure that the people who might have questions, or you guys are always welcome to reach out to justiceformileshall.org and reach me personally, because I'm happy to talk to you more about this. But it's not an isolated event. That this kind of stuff happens all the time to our young African American children.
Thank you, Tom.
Hey, Olvera.
Hi, can you hear me?
If you would speak up a little bit.
This is Adi Olvera, and I want to just say that I agree with Lucas and Michael, who spoke earlier, that there's no need to hire more cops, but a need to reinvest on programs for the most vulnerable residents, like in housing, mental health services, youth programs. We shouldn't hire more police. Why not wait and have your community sessions first and listen to Black and Brown families about what safety means for them? I'm concerned that youth in Walnut Creek feel threatened and fearful of police and unprotected from fragile racists that are harassing them when they're peacefully protesting in downtown. Why not refocus on their safety and make sure that their voices are lifted? Because all they're trying to do is raise raise awareness on what Black and Brown and Indigenous individuals are feeling in Walnut Creek. I agree with Vivian McHenry. I want to add that individuals like Ron and Vince favor police because they felt protected by police for decades. I understand, but individuals who can't see beyond that don't see the safety and services others need beyond the color of their own white skin. It's time they start asking the Black and Brown communities what issues they are facing, what needs they have, what would make them feel safe in order to live, eat, shop in Walnut Creek. If you want to keep Walnut Creek white, then you're racist and you're failing your society that is diverse and has different needs than you. You don't need more cops. You need to create a safe neighborhoods for all, and ask that what safety means for them. And when I mean them, Black and Brown Indigenous lives that live, work, shop in Walnut Creek. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Rika?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Keep
Yes.
going.
My name is Rika Zaharia. I just moved to Walnut Creek last week. My accent is not very good in English. I hope you will understand me. I'm in love with this city, and I was in love with this city because the safetiness and the beauty. And I just want to tell you, I'm for the police people, and we can add some more programs for them. But I would like to be safe in this city. I just moved here, and we want to keep Walnut Creek safe, not white, like my other lady told me. I am not democratic. I am not Republican person. I'm a normal person who wants to live in a safe place. And my goal is to open a business here. Unfortunately, the COVID stopped me, but this is my way. And I love this Walnut Creek to be safe and to sleep well in the nighttime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Pennington?
There we go. Can you hear me? My name is Tim Pennington. I'm a 32-year resident of Walnut Creek. Oh, sorry. I'm in the wrong comment section. Sorry.
Oh, okay, come back during public comment, Tim. It
Yeah.
sounds like, yes. Thank you very much.
Jem Berry?
Hi, I'm Jem. I've lived here all my life. I'm 18. I don't really think the police are keeping us safe. I am very much in support of how we are not hiring more police officers. That's how I'm tying this into the whole thing. I do not feel safe around the police, and I know that my white skin protects me, which is, I think, something that a lot of people who commented before me don't seem to quite understand. But I do not feel safe around the police because I have multiple mental disabilities and neurological disabilities that cause me to sometimes act different than other people. And it's clear that the police in this city do not know how to deal with people like me. Right now, I'm clear and lucid, but I'm not always like this. And I do not trust that if the police were called when I was struggling, that they would not kill me. I'm more certain that they wouldn't because I am white, but I'm not as certain as I would be if I was neurotypical. And the woman who said the police protect her children, I'm willing to bet they're white. Where were the police for Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice, 12 and 17? Kids killed. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Jim. Glad you're doing well. Next, please.
Samia Z?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I was like, I just wanted to comment because I'm hearing a lot of people. Well, first of all, it's great that you guys are not considering hiring more police because that's important. But I think the main thing that I'm not hearing in the discussion that's happening is is a discussion really, or any sort of incentive towards even entertaining the possibility of, you know, why there might be a large number of people who are calling to defund the police. There's a quote from Desmond Tutu where he says that at a certain point, you've got to stop pulling people out of the river and you've got to go see what's causing them to fall in. And I think that the cause and like the cry for the calls to defund the police is about so much more than just defunding the police. It's about examining how the police are an institution that represents the oppression of Black, Indigenous people of color. They are representative of a huge history in this country. And let me tell you, I grew up in Walnut Creek. I actually worked for Walnut Creek City Hall for 2 years. And I was a part of the arts education department there that was defunded. So I know you guys aren't unfamiliar with the idea of defunding anything. So yeah, I think it's like the moment what's being asked of people at this time is to just, at the very least, engage in dialogue, perhaps entertain another perspective. You know, like Walnut Creek has been so static culturally for so long, and I've witnessed it over the 30 years I've been there. And yeah, I just think that people should research these platforms further before assuming the worst of these communities that have lived alongside you for decades at this point. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Rhiannon?
Hi, my name's Rhiannon and I'm a resident a Walnut, I'm sorry, a resident of Walnut Creek. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to touch on item J. We definitely do not need to hire more cops. We are already overstaffed as it is. I will use the word defund. We need to take away the funds from the police and invest them into services such as item C and D. We need homeless shelter. That's not a temporary thing. Why is it only temporary? Homelessness is not temporary. So what is stopping us from making it a permanent solution in our community? Also, I do support money towards affordable housing. That's really exciting to see, but we need more of it. So let's keep the momentum on that, and I will be happy to see that implemented. Also, things that we can invest in is a 24/7 non-police, non-violent crisis response to mental health calls. So I would just like to reiterate, we do not need to hire more cops, and I was excited to see that you guys do agree with that, but we still have a lot of work to do, and I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Are we done?
There's one additional hand, Owen Smith.
All right, have you got me now?
We do.
Yeah. Hey, first of all, I just wanted to say I don't have a position. My 2 cents is I don't really have a position on the number of officers that you need. I think that's up to you. Looking at the grand jury report, I think they did insert a paragraph that depends on the local needs, and I certainly think that's the responsibility of the city council to determine the staffing. What I would say is that they're expensive, and the budget is in pretty bad shape, and we've already seen a tremendous amount of damage to other sectors of the budget, and I hope that you'll keep that in mind as part of the program. What does concern me is the behavior of the police, given the way that they handled the June 1st incident on 680 with these kinetic impact projectiles and so on and so forth, attack dogs. And so I really think that what the city council should be doing is establishing an oversight committee with admin privileges over police servers and with data steward responsibilities for what goes on their Facebook page, which oftentimes looks more like PR than any kind of factual reporting. So that's my 2 cents worth. And I hope you'll come to a good decision about your staffing levels, and not just by asking your chief of police, but by looking at the data and examining through an oversight process what you really need, as opposed to listening to an advisory council or something like that where they don't really have data, they just have ideas. So I hope you'll do that. Thanks.
Nice to see you again.
You too.
Mara Flynn.
Hi there, can you hear me now?
Yes, Mara.
Hi, hey, I just wanted to call in and just voice my support of especially that previous caller that just spoke about really rethinking how we're spending our money, especially when it comes to the police. I'm in support of defunding the police and investing in social services, namely 24/7 non-police response, 40 hours of training for crisis intervention. And in regards to the Miles Hall case, we need some transparency in that investigation. I think we are owed that explanation, and I think that there should be some more transparency and oversight on our police force. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Brenda.
Hello. Let me turn on my video. There I am. All right. My name is Brenda Barnhart. I was born and raised in Walnut Creek. I still live here. I am a teacher, and I am a privileged white woman who has always felt protected by the police. But that is not the case for Black, Indigenous people of color. They do not feel protected by the police in many cases. Neither do our homeless population, which is why I fully support all the items supporting Trinity Center. I believe some of the money that you're saving, if you let go of some of the money that goes to the police, could better fund toward the Trinity Center, and they know how to respond to crisis in the homeless population, most of which have mental incapacities, and they need people that are trained. So it's helpful to look at both ways. If you're taking money from the police and giving it to people that are really trained and good at what they do, they can better support our homeless in Walnut Creek, which will help prevent crime, which will help the police have less work to do. So it's a win-win situation. If you take some of the money from the police who are overburdened with calls for, let's say, someone that's panhandling, instead, someone that's fully trained in that, a homeless outreach community member could go and speak to that person and de-escalate the situation in a way that is not terrifying to the homeless. And crime will go down if the homeless have a place to sleep at night, if they have services given to them, if there is affordable housing in our community. I can barely afford to live in Walnut Creek, and I am a full-time teacher. It is ridiculous. The cost of housing in this city is insane. And people with full-time jobs should not or full-time minimum wage job should be able to afford to live here. So thank you.
Thank you. Before we go, oh no, there's another person. Okay.
Phone number, last 4 digits, 2246.
Oh, my name is Anna. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Anna, and I live in Walnut Creek for over 20 years. And you probably can hear by my accent that I immigrated to the United States over 30 years ago from Soviet Union. So unfortunately, I know by experience what happens when police defunded, when a lot of foundations are shaken, and when the utopia comes on top, thinking that we're going to make better society by destroying everything what we have today. It was the reason we immigrated. But I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about that, yes, I'm white. I'm not a racist, and I don't appreciate to be called that. This is number one. Number two, when we call 911, I don't think they're asking us, are you white or black or brown? Okay? And number three, I definitely for mental health services. I'm for homeless shelters, but not with the expense of defunding the police. We need police and we need other social services. And I don't understand when people think that it's one or another. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ava McCandless.
Hi, City Council. I just want to repeat what's been said over the last year, that we still need justice for Miles Hall, meaning we need an independent investigation, and we need the officers involved in the shooting to be at least on desk duty, but preferably fired. And please defund the police and put money into other services, and justice for Miles Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava.
Kelly Ho.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm great. Thank you. I love what you're wearing, by the way. Well, I think it's beautiful. Okay. So I just wanted to say hi again. I'm Kelly Ho. I'm a voting resident living in downtown Walnut Creek. I support all 3 items on the consent calendar, and I just wanted to share a story about a homeless man that my partner and I met right next to the library. Actually, it was that day. It was like 100 degrees, and when we were talking to him, he was very thirsty, and all he wanted was water at the time. So we gave him water. And then we asked him if he needed help, if we needed to take him to the Trinity Center. And he said that the Trinity Center is only open 5 days a week. So I think having a more permanent solution when it comes to elongating that time period for the change in the armory would be a great idea, because literally all he told us was that he wanted to take a shower, which I think should be a human basic need that everybody should have, especially in 100-degree weather. And I just also wanted to, I don't know where the timer is. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to add to that. I know a lot of people talked about, like, I know the 2 callers before, the person said that, the police don't ask if you're black or white or brown or whatever, but, when they do look at my skin color, as a woman of color living in this city, I expected not to be tear gas. I expected not to be hurt by the police, and they still, I was still psychologically traumatized from that event on June 1st. So I will say again that we don't need more police. We don't need to hire more police in this city. I think we need to take the police that we have already and really, really, if anything, invest in their training and invest in their care. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Lena Davis.
Hello, may I be heard?
Yes, you're here.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to voice my support for the measures increasing support for our homeless individuals in middle school as a student at WCI, and I am now a voter in Walnut Creek. We went to the Trinity Center and spoke to the individuals receiving support there, and it was so important to understand that regardless of socioeconomic standing, regardless of situation, homeless folks are people and people first always. So I'm so glad that the city is taking that seriously. But I also do want to voice my support for continuing to defund the police in this community. From all the research that we've been seeing right now about the impact of policing and over-policing on people in Walnut Creek, like Miles Hall, who are not treated with respect and care, and they're instead treated with violence. And we need to start prioritizing care over violence and over violence workers like police officers when it comes to mental health issues, when it comes to homelessness, even when it just comes to poverty. Because in Walnut Creek, a lot of what the police do is monitoring the poor instead of providing them with support, kicking people out of their residences, especially homeless folks. And I think we really need to prioritize how do we make Walnut Creek a safe place. And cops don't prevent crime, they deal with what happens after the fact. We know that crime is a result of poverty, of discrimination, of a variety of other factors. So I think as a city, we really need to realign our priorities. And if we want to prevent crime, what can we do systemically to keep that from happening instead of punishing Black and brown folks, low income folks for just trying to live and for just trying to get by? Thank you.
Thank you.
Athia Yutha Yakumar.
Hi, yeah, my name's Atia. I am a voting resident of Walnut Creek. I'd just like to address some of the items on the agenda. I just wanted to express appreciation for item C, the setting up of a temporary homeless shelter. And while it's appreciated, I urge the City Council to go further and invest in more permanent solutions for homelessness. I also appreciate item D, the resolution to create more permanent affordable housing. And I'm also glad that the city recognizes that we don't need to hire more cops in item J, but I think we can go further to reduce the role of policing in our community. The family of Miles Hall has been calling for a 24/7 non-police response to mental health calls for months, and I urge the City Council to invest in more solutions like this. I'm generally in favor of defunding the police, and I know a lot of people have talked about crime and worrying about that. But I think that investing in alternatives to policing will reduce crime by preventing it from happening in the first place and supporting the most at risk in our community. I have to ask, why our police need funding for access to tear gas and other militarized tools? According to policescorecard.org from 2016 to 2018, the Walnut Creek Police made 21 times more arrests for misdemeanors compared to violent crimes. And I think rather than spending money on policing over these minor crimes, we can spend this money on initiatives that address homelessness, education, and other issues in our community. And not only that, Black and brown people in our community deserve to feel more welcome. People with mental illnesses in our community deserve to feel safe. And you can hear it directly from the former callers, the earlier callers, that over-policing does put our communities at risk. So I want to echo a sentiment made by an earlier caller that it's really important to engage in this discussion explicitly. And I urge the City Council to explicitly talk about these issues with the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Steve Roderick.
Steve, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Steve, unmute.
Hello,
Thank you.
can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Now I can't hear you. I would just like to say that I understand everybody's compassion for folks that aren't as fortunate as others, but the only comment I'd like to make is minor crimes, as the previous speaker commented, are only minor until you're the victim of one. And I think it's unfortunate that people overlook that. The reason Walnut Creek is a nice community is because there is some semblance of order. And if you're not going to have order, regardless of the violation, it creates an uncomfortable situation for many. Like I've said, if you're the victim of a crime of any level, it's concerning. And I think a lot of the speakers haven't had the bad fortune of being a victim yet, but there has to be some standard of order in the community or it will continue to deteriorate. So I do not support the unfunding of police. I do agree that a lot of the police calls are something that could be better responded to by some other person. The problem with that is it's going to be a very hazardous situation because I have some experience in this area, and a lot of times what seems like a very mundane situation can turn very dangerous and hostile quickly. And that's the quandary we're in. You can send social workers and you can send mental health professionals, but oftentimes things don't work out the way it looks like it would in a textbook. Just like when firefighters go to a crime scene, they wait for the police to make sure it's safe. The firefighters won't even go into an emergency call if it's unsafe. When you're going to have other people going into these situations which could be unstable due to mental illness, domestic violence, things like that, you have to really tread lightly because they're very dangerous. And although it sounds good on paper, we have to be very conscious of what we're doing. And I can't hear your response. So that's all I want to say is we have to tread lightly on these decisions because there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yes, thank you.
Izzy Rasuli.
Good evening, Council. Were you all able to see the videos that I sent in today? Did those get around to you guys? Okay, so those were videos from the June 1st protest. Unlike what the chief and captain said at that meeting where they presented, it wasn't from the freeway. It was from Civic in California. Kids were getting gassed, kids were getting tackled, kids were getting shot at. And I just think that that's evidence in its own to demilitarize and defund the Walnut Creek Police Department. Meanwhile, at the peaceful protests every day downtown, they're getting death threats. Minors are getting death threats, and those people aren't even being treated with any type of serious measure. I don't think they need to be gassed, but I think they need to be treated with some form of discipline or consequence. So those videos are pretty much going against what everyone was saying about the gas, trying to keep people safe. Kids were running, kids were getting shot with the actual gas canisters. And we're not just going to stop talking about that protest because it was a very big example of why we need to defund and demilitarize the Walnut Creek Police Department. It was very unjust. People were just trying to exercise their civil rights. And they're continuing to do that every day and getting death threats from Walnut Creek citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
There doesn't appear to be any additional individuals wanting to comment.
Thank you for everybody who took the time to come and talk to us. Before we go on with the motion for the consent calendar, I'm going to ask the city manager to describe talk a little bit about the grand jury report.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council and members of the public.
I did want to spend a few moments just clarifying a few details about the grand jury report, because there can be a lot of confusion about these reports. They're only issued periodically. We don't receive one every year. So I want to take a moment to explain how that works, as well as provide a little more context. So the grand jury, and I should note this is a civil grand jury, not a criminal grand jury, which is a major distinction. So it is a civil grand jury. The grand jury is an independent organization that reports up through the state superior court. It's selected through the superior court, and they ultimately are under the guidance and direction of the superior court, although they're funded by the county government as an aside. They have discretion, the grand jury does, over which items they choose to select to investigate in any given year, and it's usually quite a number, and they release a full report with all the different topics. This topic was chosen by them. We, being the city of Walnut Creek, or other cities for that matter, don't have any input as to what they investigate or not. They obviously chose this topic. Their recommendations, their findings are completely independent. We don't have any say on those. We don't see the report before it's issued, and we see it for the first time that it's made public. We are legally required to respond to the report, as we are doing tonight, and your council needs to provide that ultimate direction, and then it can be signed by me and sent to the grand jury. So that's a bit about the process. I do want to clarify, I think most speakers understood the city's response clearly, in that we are not proposing to add additional police officers, but it seemed there might have been a few that were a little unclear on the response. So we are not pursuing the recommendation from the grand jury that basically stated we should have more officers and do more to recruit and retain. We obviously do have some challenges with recruitment and retention, as do many organizations, but we are not planning to add any additional police officers. And I do also want to speak to a moment about defunding police. I know that what I'm about to say likely is not what some folks are looking for, not near to the extent, but as your council aware, and as I think many folks who are here this evening may be aware, but there may be others that are not, is that your council just held budget hearings, well, several budget hearings over the last couple months, but just recently adopted a budget 2 weeks ago. And as part of that budget, you reduced the police department's budget by $900,000, and you allocated $600,000 for programs that are not related directly to a PD response or support mental health training and response. So matters of providing training to all city employees for inclusion, diversity and inclusion, implicit bias, as well as being able to better identify signs of human trafficking, which is a big issue in the Bay Area. Also, additional mental health support training for our police officers, because there is no circumstance in which all folks who have a mental health issue can be responded to by non-PD. There will simply be some that will require a PD response, either with or without social workers or mental health care workers. And then your council also allocated money to help provide for the expansion of a county mental health crisis response team, which is a non-PD response for those in a mental health crisis where the situation warrants. So I do want to point that out. You reduced the city police department budget by $900,000 and allocated $600,000 to these other areas. So I wanted to just highlight those few points here before we wrap up this item, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions your council may have on this item.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Silva.
I actually would like, before we approve the consent calendar, to ask a question about the winter nights shelter, which Trinity's, this will be our 5th year doing it with Trinity Center. And can you explain why this can't be a year-round shelter at the National Guard Armory, and who owns the National Guard Armory, and whether we can just close it?
Yeah, I think I can answer those, but the National Guard owns the armory. The city of Walnut Creek does not. And what this effectively does is allows us to use the armory at certain periods of time. And I see Margot Ernst is on the call here. I may defer to her for more detail, but obviously it's an arrangement we have to make. with the Armory in order to find out when we can use it. And there are times when they can make it clear that it won't be available for use. If something were to arise and the National Guard needed to use the Armory, we may not be able to use it for the winter night shelter. However, we've had this arrangement in place. It has worked very well. And in addition, this is just for the evenings. We do have the Trinity Day Center, as was noted by some folks, where folks can go during the day for meals, for showers, and to do laundry. So the concept being, and granted it may not be as expansive as we all would like, because there are some challenges with availability of these types of facilities, but that folks would have a night to stay when it's dangerous to be outside from at least a weather perspective, recognizing there are other dangers to living unsheltered, but that during the day folks can go get meals and, like I mentioned, take a shower and have a place to do laundry and a place to get out of the elements in the event that it is hot or cold as well. So there are options. Granted, it's not ideal, but I would also note that in terms of other cities and the region and overall Contra Costa, that we do have some of the more robust homeless services as compared to other cities nearby.
Particularly cities of our size. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. And I guess this is under item 2J, but I wanted to ask the Chief Chaplain a question, and it's regarding a couple of people who had talked about on the protests that are at City Hall, and in one particular case said that there were death threats. And I'd spoken to you last week, and a couple of other officers, including Captain Gorski, regarding threats that were being made against some of the protesters at City Hall at noon. And I just wanted to make sure that that was addressed before we finished off this item. And I know normally this would be under council member comments, but because this has been addressed with consent, I thought it's a good idea to be able to talk about it. I know, Mayor, we've gone down the road. So if either Chief Chaplain or if we have one of the captains on, I'd like to make sure that that's at least discussed and addressed to ensure that the safety of any protesters, and in this particular case, the ones that are at noon at City Hall, that any kind of threats are taken seriously.
Hey, Susie, Jay Hill is on and his hand is raised, so maybe he can come in and answer that question.
I'm on too.
If they are not available, we could come back to this during council member updates if you would like. I know the chief had noted to me earlier that he stepped away briefly, and there's Captain Hill. All right, there they are. I see him.
And the chief. Oh, is the chief here?
Hi, I am here.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilk, thank you for the question. And I apologize for the brief delay. Captain Hill was prepared to answer questions, but you asked for one and you get two. So I want to take a moment to respond to your question. We had received a report that a person that had been protesting in front of City Hall was threatened, and an officer did respond and take a report so that we can follow up on that like we do with any other reported crime. We then had an acting lieutenant go out and I believe speak with you directly, Mayor Pro Tem Wilk, as well as people that were in front of City Hall. And then our patrol operations captain, Gorski, also responded. So we are aware of what has been stated, aware that there have been reported threats to people out front of the building. And we are, will certainly monitor the area. Of course, we are very close. Somebody need merely walk the steps over to the telephone in front of the department, pick that up. It goes directly to our dispatch, and we can have people from the building or from the field quickly respond.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to, since we're wandering down irrational paths right now, We are having some technical difficulties, and we are really encouraging people to either go to the Walnut Creek YouTube channel to watch this live, or to any of the cable situations, Comcast Channel 28 in Incorporated Walnut Creek, Rossmore Channel 26, Wave Channel 29, and AT&T Uverse Channel 99, or even maybe the live stream on our website. So if you're having some problems seeing everybody's visage, please go ahead and do that. Now, I am going to hold us to the fact that we are in the consent calendar, and I am looking for a motion, and I hope everybody remembers that I have asked to have item I handled separately. So may I have a motion?
Mayor, I had one question before we get to the motion, either for Captain Hill or the chief. That had to do with the grand jury report, so it's on the consent calendar, and it was raised by a couple of the commenters. And it's the last recommendation from the grand jury, which was to our city and the various other cities that they should consider identifying funds that will permit the police departments to overhire officer positions as a strategy for keeping the departments fully staffed. And our response is that this recommendation has been implemented. Can you just elaborate on that? That's just want to understand what our policy is and how that squares with the grand jury's recommendation.
Yeah, hi, I'll be happy to take that question. So we have been authorized to overhire 4 positions for the last several years. That allows us to keep up with attrition rates. And the reason for that, I heard one of the callers make a comment on why don't we overhire for a variety of other positions. And the reason that the police is an exception to that is because it takes an extraordinarily long time to hire and train somebody and get them up to speed. So the average time between interviewing and getting somebody ready to go is about 12 months with the academy. And so if we don't get ahead of that curve and keep people on our bench with an overhire position, we quickly drop below our authorized numbers. And so the city manager has given us permission to create an overhire position of up to 4 officers. And that is not additional funds. We find funds within our budget to make that happen. It's usually just found through normal attrition and a vacancy factor that we used to make that happen. So that is something that we've been doing for quite some time. We have authorization right now, again, to have 4 over. We don't currently have those positions. We're authorized at 81, and we currently have 81. But with the overhires, we're authorized to go up to 85. But it is a struggle to get those overhires filled at this time. As the grand jury reports indicates, finding qualified applicants and filling those positions is tougher now than it has been in the past. And so we are not currently in an overhire position, but we still retain that ability.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let me just, if I could add to that, Councilmember Francois and Mayor Askew. Captain Hill is correct, and I do want to point out those additional 4 positions are not budgeted. So in theory, if they were filled at 85 instead of 81, they would be over budget and have to come in on budget. But that is not the intent. The intent is simply to address that lag time from the time there's a known vacancy to when somebody can be hired, so that we can hopefully be closer to 80 as opposed to being down considerable because of lag time. I also want to point out that this is not exclusively for the police department. There are occasional circumstances where I will authorize an overhire, if you will, for other departments because of a unique circumstance, a critical to fill position, or a position that is expected to take longer than anticipated because of recruitment or other unique circumstances. Again, it would not, there's no additional money for that. The departments are expected to stay within their budget if there is an overfill situation. It's more obviously the exception than the norm, but it is not exclusive to the police department.
Terrific. I'm prepared to move the consent calendar items A through H and J through L.
I will second, but I believe we had some minor revisions. So with the revisions.
Yes, with the revisions. You're on mute, Mayor.
I have a motion and a second. May I please have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Francois,
Aye.
Councilmember Silva,
Aye.
Councilmember Waddell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilk,
Aye.
Mayor Haskell.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so the item I have pulled is the agreement, the amendment to the agreement with Lifetime Tennis for operation of our tennis and pickleball program. And it's recommended and related to the COVID change of cash flow and things like that. And they were the second amendment, this amendment allows Lifetime Tennis to, for the rest of the agreement, which is a pretty long time, to make all of their payments in one payment at year end. I'm understanding and support the first couple of years until we're through this pandemic. But I don't see any reason why we have to extend it to the full end of the agreement. And I also argue that if we change it for this long, when we renegotiate the agreement, they will want the same thing. The reason I'm concerned is in my experience consulting with businesses, when you change a payment plan to once a year, it gets to be a harder nut to crack than if you make the payments regularly over a shorter period of time. So I'm going to ask the council to consider that we recommend an amendment to the change and give them 2 years of one annual payment. And then for the remaining portion of the contract, go back to our original terms.
Second.
Okay, I guess we have a mix. I'm waiting for comments. Does anybody have any more comments? Okay, I have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Haskell.
Aye.
Councilmember Silva,
Aye, and thanks for raising the issue, Luella.
Councilmember Francois,
Aye.
Councilmember Waddell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilk.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. All right, now we're at public communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comments for items not on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the council cannot act on items raised during public communications, but may respond briefly to statements made or to questions posed, request clarification, or refer the item to staff. And let me tell you the other items that are on the agenda so you know what's coming up. We have an adoption of resolution approving the annual action plan, substantial amendment to include the CDBG-CV funding allocation, and that's it. So now is the time if you wish to have a comment before the council so that we may hear your concerns. Please do so now.
Steven Steinberg.
Yes, hi. Thank you for taking my comment. I am once again calling in to talk about requesting that the city agree to ban the use of tear gas. It's a simple issue. I appreciate what the city's doing in regard to providing more services for the homeless, working on mental health issues. Those are things that take time and take a staff report and a lot of thought to do right. But something like this, something like banning something like tear gas, which is a chemical weapon that's banned under international law, is not something that should take that long to figure out. I was shocked by the treatment that was given to the protesters on June 1st. Many other cities around the country have already acted to ban tear gas. We don't need to wait any longer for our city to take action. I would like to attend a protest myself and take my kids out to attend a protest sometime if the opportunity arises and exercise their First Amendment rights. But I don't feel safe to do that knowing that tear gas could be used. It's not a humane weapon. That's why it's banned under international law. And the reason is that it's indiscriminate. It doesn't discriminate between a small number of wrongdoers who may be part of a crowd and the rest of the crowd that is largely peaceful, or in the case of the crowd in downtown Walnut Creek, was entirely peaceful. So I think it's absolutely crucial that we take action on this. I'm not a single issue voter normally, but I would really have trouble supporting any city council member who can't stand up and say that it's not right for our police department to have available to use a weapon of war that would be banned and illegal if used by our US military. We need to act to ban tear gas now. It's a simple request. I'd like to see it on the agenda at the next meeting. And I'm going to keep calling in and asking for it. And I know there's going to be some more discussion of it at the Public Safety Committee meeting that's coming up, which hasn't met in several months. But I don't think this is an issue that requires a lot of waiting. We need to take action now. Thank you very much.
Michael Sampson.
Hello. So I want to bring the conversation back a little bit because I think there's like a false kind of equivalency going on. People are equating the police with safety. And so it's like, whether we fund the police or are we safe? Which one is it? Because if we fund the police, then we're going to be less safe, right? And that's the wrong way of thinking about it. That's not how we're talking about it when we're talking about defund. If we defund the police, and I suggest that we take the lead of cities like Seattle and Berkeley and defund our police by 50%. If we defund the police, that doesn't just mean that public safety kind of goes out the window. I think people need to really reimagine what public safety looks like, because people think of public safety and they think, oh, police, right? But in the 70s, or up until the 70s, if you needed to go to the hospital, you're going to be taken there by a police officer in a paddy wagon. And that didn't result in good health outcomes. So communities eventually decided, okay, let's defund the police and reinvest in ambulances. And now you get taken to the hospital by an ambulance. So we are suggesting that we defund the police and then reinvest in actual networks of public safety. So you won't lose safety. Walnut Creek won't be any less safe. In fact, we'll be more safe because we're going to be able to spend that money more efficiently. Like it's going to cost less per person to fund, and we're going to get better results, right? So police outreach for homeless, for example, that's a really inefficient way of tackling homelessness because we're paying officers a lot of money to do what? To move a homeless person somewhere else or arrest them. And with mental health crisis, most of the people who are killed, unarmed people killed by the police, are going through a mental health crisis. So why are we sending police to deal with those problems? We can make our communities safer if we defund the police. And Walnut Creek right now is safe, not because we have such a strong police, but because we're a wealthy community. That's why we're safe, right? Communities that are dealing with internal violence are stricken with poverty. We aren't stricken with poverty. We have a lot of money, so that's why we're safe. It's not because of presence. So that's why we need to defund the police and reinvest in other social safety services.
Joshua.
Hello. I'd like to talk about a few different things. First, on the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force, which was up for discussion 2 weeks ago. Apparently it's temporary is my understanding now, and I think it definitely should be a permanent institution. These issues aren't going away anytime soon. And the second thing about this is there was no mention 2 weeks ago of Native representation or indigenous issues. We need recognition that we are living on Bay Miwok land, that the original stewards of the land were the Chutkan, Saklan, and Takton tribes. We need recognition of the genocide that has taken place, and that hundreds of Native Americans and Pacific Islanders call this city home. So I just think this needs to be part of that discussion. Second, I don't like calling out individual council members, but Councilmember Silva, the last two meetings, 2 times in a row, you've made specific comments about how the public seem to be ill-informed that actually you're cutting the police budget instead of increasing it. And I think this is fairly disingenuous. The original plans in this fiscal budget was to increase the police department funding by $2 million. And so now we're only increasing it by $1 million. But at the end of the day, this past year, we spent $25.4 million on police. And this coming year, the budget that you've approved, you're spending $26.7 million. So looking at that, it's very clear that it is an increase. And I think it's just important to recognize that those numbers are very clear and that the public who have spoken about this are right on that issue. And finally, to the entire city council, everybody who said Black Lives Matter, who's invoked calls for racial justice, equality, human decency, and then voted for a budget which actively disinvests from our Black and brown residents, from our most marginalized residents, and invests in a police department that's now taking up 34% of all funding. I just want you to recognize the irony there. This is not how we're going to get to a world where Black lives truly matter. It's taking a step in the opposite direction. Thank you.
Jem Berry.
Hello, me again. Miles Hall was killed by police over a year ago, and his family did everything they could do to prevent his death, but the police department failed them in the most awful way possible. They had a chance to do things right when Miles was alive, and they failed. In the years since his death, the officers who killed him and those who allowed it to happen have faced no disciplinary action. The police department failed their duties once again. It is clear they cannot investigate themselves. But City Council, you failed the Hall family and the Walnut Creek community as well. You have had over a year to push for justice, but you've taken no real meaningful action. This city needs a 24/7 mental health emergency non-police response, and it needed it a year ago. Some money given to the county response unit is not enough. Police mental health training is obviously not enough. The eyes of the entire world on American police, specifically for police brutality, and yet this city's police department still brutalized peaceful protesters, many of which were teenagers. This is clearly the best the police can do. It's clear that reform is not enough. Listen to the people of this city when we say the police need to be defunded, and those funds need to be reinvested in public services like education, mental health, and homeless support. 24 mental health crisis non-police response team, now. The officers responsible for killing Miles held accountable for what they've done, now. Defund the police, choose your people over your property and your image. Thank you, I yield my time.
Thank you.
Barbara Pennington.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Barbara Pennington, and I live in Walnut Creek. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. On behalf of FOSAP, I attended the Contra Costa County Mayor's Conference on July 9th. At that conference, Mayor Haskew requested a discussion of alternatives for non-law enforcement delivery of services for mental health and nonviolent crisis situations. Thank you, Mayor, for initiating that important conversation. The response from the mayors across the county was very supportive of change. Those who spoke strongly agreed that there was a need to improve mental health crisis response within their cities and the county. I believe that the next steps for the mayors are to hear from the county about existing mental health resources and to turn over the creation of a new response model to a task force of city managers led by Mr. Buckshire. Thank you for taking on that leadership. FOSAP has questions about the task force. How will the task force communicate its thinking to the public? And how will the public give the task force feedback on its assumptions and progress? Will the public have to rely on reports at city council meetings at which there is no opportunity for public input longer than 2 minutes? Will the public be able to participate in the task force? Mental health issues have a steep learning curve. We feel strongly that the task force should include representation from FOSAP and/or the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI. content experts who are ready to partner with firsthand experience with the current service configuration, who are painfully aware of the gaps that exist, and who are the final consumers of any new configuration of services. Thank you for your attention. FOSATH and NAMI are looking forward to working with the city and the task force to create the best mental health response system in the nation. Thank you.
Tom Henry.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Tom.
Hi, my name is Thomas Henry, and I have been a resident of Walnut Creek for 21 years. I went to Las Lomas High School, and I was elected the ASB president. Since that time, I've begun to understand how, in my time in a leadership position, I was complicit in and reinforced a racist system. I hope that the elected officials of Walnut Creek can understand their complicity and change their actions before the opportunity passes. I support a reallocation of funds away from the Walnut Creek Police. In my time at Las Lomas, we had an officer who was on campus during all school hours. The officer, Officer Olson, was frequently overly involved in high school drama and spent a significant amount of his time asking about who was dating who and what the popular crowd was up to. Is the Walnut Creek budget really best spent funding a police officer who is trying to relive his high school glory days? If that's how Walnut Creek is spending our police budget, I think that we need to take a significantly closer look at what we're allocating to it. I think a missing component of Walnut Creek's discussion is reparations and the de facto segregation of Walnut Creek. Walnut Creek is only about 2% Black. Why is that? It's not an accidental artifact of history. It's because we've actively discouraged Black and brown folks from joining our community since the inception of our town. I recently found out that the Homeowners Association for my neighborhood had a bylaw in the contract that you could not sell your house to a Black person, except that the bylaw also used a racial slur. I have no idea when this provision was removed, hopefully a long while back, but we're fooling ourselves if we think that these provisions don't have a role in our town's current racial makeup, and we're fooling ourselves if we think that there's no need for reparations. At the bare minimum, reparations should look like funding disadvantaged communities. We should have a year-round homeless shelter in Walnut Creek. I hope that the city council members spend some time speaking to these impoverished people. Maybe they'll start to understand why housing stability is such a huge first step in allowing people to improve their socioeconomic status. More than that, I think we should be taking a closer look at what else we're doing to alleviate our de facto segregation, and I think the city should investigate the active role it has played in discouraging Black and brown folks from joining our town. Thank you, and I hope to see many people on this call continue to march and act for BIPOC lives.
Lucas Carboni.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, this is Lucas Carboni, lifelong Walnut Creek resident, he, him. I'd like to speak as to the diversity task force discussed at the previous meeting. Specifically, I think it'd be a grave mistake to have a task force just demographically and geographically proportionate to the city as a whole. Our city is 64% homeowner, 69% non-Hispanic white, and with a median household income of $86,000. The average voices on this task force will also be mostly homeowner, white, and upper middle class. If this reflects the city's demographics, although it should be noted, this is not at all similar to the Bay Area's demographics as a whole, mostly non-white, about half renter and homeowner, lower income. But and these homeowner, white, upper middle class voices already have very good representation in Walnut Creek. The city council is 100% white, 100% homeowner, and comprised of people from upper middle class occupations, namely small business owners and professionals. But we need the most marginalized among us, renters, Black and Indigenous people of color, and lower income individuals to be at the forefront of this task force. That's one matter I had written down, but I'd also like to speak as to certain comments that the city manager made earlier about defunding the police. I think it's important to remember, he talked about the budget hearings. I think it's important to remember that I think virtually all of the people who did call for defunding this police, with a few exceptions like Brenda and Nithya, and I do thank them for their comments, were present at those budget hearings. I was present, I spoke, I've spoken at every single city council meeting since June 16th. I know a lot of people here have also done the same. And quite frankly, we've tried to make our voices heard, but you guys have not heard us whatsoever. We have been very clear, this community has been very clear about what we want, and what we want is to defund the police and reinvest in community. And that was not reflected in the budget that you guys adopted. That has not been reflected in your stances regarding mental health crisis response. That has not been reflected in the amount of funding devoted to other social services. Thank you.
Okay.
That concludes my comment.
Thank you, Lucas.
Brenda?
Hello, I am back. I wanted to just point out the expediency with which the Walnut Creek City Council reopened downtown Walnut Creek restaurants, as well as outdoor dining that goes into the street. Evidently, you gave permits very quickly for that in order to boost our tax revenue as a city. And that should not be the most important thing in Walnut Creek. Should be wonderful restaurants and the taxes that they provide us and tourists that come from other cities to eat in our city, especially when we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are not wearing masks. People are walking downtown like there's nothing going on. I am a teacher. I'm not going back to school. And it's because of people downtown not wearing masks, walking around like nothing is happening. It's part of the problem. It's very scary to see. I don't want to go downtown anymore. I see so many people that don't care about social distancing, and then they want to send their kids to my classroom. Well, it's not going to happen. And if you compare the expediency of opening up downtown and the permitting process that must have gone into that, you can see that your reaction time toward banning the use of tear gas in comparison is extremely slow. So I agree with Stephen, Tom, Jem, Lucas, and many others. You should be right now saying we ban the use of tear gas in this city. We ban the use of flash grenades in this city. And that doesn't need to have a committee. You can just do that. And you want to prioritize lives of Black and brown people over capitalism and tax revenues. So please consider lives and people's lives in the pandemic and otherwise, because racism is also a pandemic, when you consider reopening downtown. You should be able to move faster in the direction of eliminating the pandemics that we are all living through right now. Thank you.
Catherine Wally?
I'm just unmuting. Hi, can everyone see me okay?
Yes.
Great. Hi, good evening. My name is Catherine Wally, and I'm a voting resident, parent, and I hold a business license in Walnut Creek. I would like to ask that the City Council continue working towards establishing a county-wide, non-police, 24/7 mental health crisis response pilot program in Miles Hall's honor. And I'm interested in hearing what the timeline could be for that. Key to this initiative and this pilot program is that the response be civilian only. For if law enforcement is involved, it will still not be accessible to those in our community who are the most likely to be oppressed and marginalized in situations like these, including BIPOC and those with disabilities. All of our community members want to feel safe, but we as a community must reckon with the fact that not all community members feel safe calling for help when law enforcement is involved. Law enforcement serves a critical role in public safety. Yes, I have loved ones who have served in law enforcement, and I personally have received support and protection from law enforcement. But it would be counterproductive to include law enforcement in such a pilot program. As California State Assembly member Sidney Conlager has said, we have to stop assuming that the first responder that is law enforcement can and is willing to address a level 2 problem with level 2 force. Instead, we see that problems get addressed with the same level of force. And so asking law enforcement, who's probably already overworked, over-traumatized, and unsympathetic at this point to certain kinds of calls, are using the same kind of adrenaline and the same kind of tactics to deal with an armed robbery as they are with dealing with someone who is mentally ill. And it's not safe for communities. In addition, I also fully support everything that Tom Henry stated in his public comment recently. I hope that my son, who will one day hopefully attend Los Lomos, will also be able to follow in his footsteps and learn and grow and figure out the ways in which he's been complicit, as we all have, as we're all learning about our own biases and prejudices. I guess my time is up. Thank you.
Dan H.
We as Walnut Creek citizen here, 33 years, been living on the Bay Miwok tribe land for 33 years, Walnut Creek. Yeah, so I just want to give some insight on the attack at City Hall, the death threats attack. So a madman came through the protest screaming, "I'm going to kill everybody," pointing at everybody. And then he went and went to the speaker. Now the speaker was a 15-year-old girl from Los Lomos on the microphone. This man charged at her saying that he was going to kill her. Our security stepped in and diffused the situation, but we got the whole thing on video and we got still pictures and we made a police report right away. So 9 days since has gone by, not one reply from the police department about this, but I do see on their Facebook page and their next door ads that they're trying to have the community's help looking for shoplifters and people that steal succulents out of the ground. But there's a madman running around Walnut Creek. We need to let everybody know. He had a white supremacy shirt on. He's been known around. And yeah, we just need to let the community know. So I hope the Walnut Creek Police Department puts out an alert to everybody. I know the 15-year-old protesters in front of the City Hall are on high alert. And I talked to the police officer the other day, and all he said, after the Monday after the police report was taken, he came down and talked to us on Monday, and he asked me what the picture of the suspect looked like. But I know that if the suspect was black, this would be an outrage to the city and everyone would be known about it, and there would be at least a couple emails back and forth and following up. But he was white, so I think that's where we're going within the city and the city council. You know, it's a little racist, I think, and so does everybody else. So let's keep Walnut Creek safe. Let's get this madman off the street who's trying to kill our kids on the street corner. And it's on video. You can go to Justice for Miles Hall Facebook page and watch the video. And that's it.
Thank you, Dan.
Jenny Schneider.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, how are you guys? It's a long time since I've actually been on video with you. So my name is Jenny Schneider, and I am a resident and business owner here in Walnut Creek. And I actually wasn't planning on speaking tonight. I know this is a surprise to all of you, but just a couple things I wanted to say is the statistic that 1 in 5 people will be diagnosed with a mental illness. And according to our 2020 census, here in Walnut Creek, we have 70,569 citizens. So that means 14,114 of them are going to have a mental illness. And when making your defunding or whatever you want, everybody has a different name for it, but reallocating funds, that's just something to keep in mind as far as having a non-police response for this. I am here speaking on behalf of justiceformileshall.org, and listening to the speakers earlier, I just have a couple things to say. I do have 3 teenage girls myself. I've always felt that my family and I are safe here in Walnut Creek. I've never questioned it. But I also don't have a child with a mental health illness. So I can't put myself in the Hall family's shoes, number 1. Number 2, I am a neighbor of the Halls. There are quite a few of you I'd be happy to talk to you about what happened and what we saw that day. I watched Miles Hall have CPR performed on him. So if you would like to reach out and talk to myself or the Hall family, or learn more about our organization, justiceformileshall.org is the place to go, because we are looking for people to support and make sure all of our children in this community are safe. We don't know what it's like, most of us. We don't, and that's a fact. And I will never know what that's like, hopefully. So I thank you for your time. I yield my time, and City Council, thank you again for including us in all of this. Have a good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
Vivian McHenry.
There we go. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So I swear every time, you probably won't believe this, but every time I actually intend, especially recently, I intend to spend my time highlighting what some of you have really done to listen and to move the needle in the direction of justice and equity and inclusion. And then there's just so much that keeps happening that you can't even in good conscience spend your 2 minutes talking about that when there's so many things that just keep undermining your efforts. And the level of complete horse manure, and I don't mean that we have been getting from Chief Chaplain and others about following up and police accountability it's insulting to our intelligence. Please follow up with the report that you said was going to be forthcoming on about June 1st, and the militarized response to those kids, many of whom were related to some very influential voters in Walnut Creek, the family members, not that that matters. You should not be spending your time, energy, and money assaulting civilians with a militarized police army. We have attempted to send videos about it multiple times, and suddenly, miraculously, your policy changed where you no longer accept those. So we're looking for some accountability and some real answers about what happened that day and who was responsible for it and how it's never to happen again. So I think calls for banning tear gas are extremely reasonable. They've happened across the country, and they've been absolutely banned in good conscience. And this situation that happened last Sunday on the 12th, we didn't choose to post anything like that on our website until 9 days passed with no action or response or follow-up whatsoever to death threats, which according to Sergeant Hibbs, is in my reading, is a felony. So and I don't want to stigmatize someone with mental illness. The man maybe does have mental illness. So we don't want to assume that people with mental illness are violent, because they're not all violent. But in this particular case, he was. We made a report, or that someone on our team made a report, and absolutely nothing has taken place. Please don't say you're monitoring it. I have a voicemail from Sergeant Hibbs saying nothing has taken place.
Thank you.
Why is that? Thank you.
OG.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, OG.
Great. Good evening. My name is OG Strogatz. I'm a longtime resident of Walnut Creek. I'm here as a member of Friends of Scott, Alexis, and Tawn Hall. I have 2 requests for your consideration, and each one builds on your demonstrated leadership. First, regarding the imperative to establish countywide 24/7 nonviolent capability to respond to mental health crises. We appreciate Mayor Haskew's June 29th letter to Chair Anderson and the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors, requesting the engagement of county and municipal leaders to collaborate to meet this need. We also appreciate the mayor leading discussion on this topic at the July 9th Contra Costa Mayors Conference, securing support from our mayors and Board of Supervisors to move forward. Our request is for FOSATH to meet with Mr. Buckshire before the next City Council meeting to learn about the timeline and process steps that will result in the launch of programming to meet this crucial need. Second, we appreciate the Council's recent commitment to establish a diversity and inclusion task force, and we recognize the concerns expressed through many public comments regarding the need to achieve truly diverse, inclusive task force membership and candid dialogue about the ways in which we must learn and grow as a community. FOSAF asks that you sequence the planning and implementation of the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force so that it follows from the community listening sessions to which we are jointly dedicated. City staff and FOSAF are close to selecting consultants to facilitate the listening sessions. The meaningful involvement of key stakeholder groups in these listening sessions will yield invaluable insights that will help us cultivate connection and trust as a community. These are prerequisites for a successful diversity and inclusion task force. We welcome the opportunity to discuss this with you further. Say his name, Miles Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, OG.
Gary Miller.
Gary?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, got it now. Okay, I'm a homeowner in Walnut Creek, middle-aged white guy, which makes me sort of irrelevant in this day and age. However, I'm about to out myself and say something that may make me relevant is I'm an ex-criminal. I spent time in prison, and nobody knows that. None of my neighbors, and maybe they do now. And I grew up in a housing project in Boston, and they defunded the police. No, it doesn't work. When they defunded the police in our housing project, drug sales tripled, no, tenfold, violence defunded, it's open season on crime. It doesn't work. And in this utopia world that I'm listening to, of course it works. But this isn't a utopia. There are bad people out there. And the police keep those bad people in check. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for your courage.
Natalie McCullough.
Hi, my name is Natalie McCullough. I wanted to discuss 3 items which were not on the consent calendar: banning the use of tear gas, firing Curtis Borman, and the establishment of a 24/7 non-police response for mental health crisis. The previous speaker already clearly outlined the need to ban tear gas, so I will focus on the latter 2 issues. To begin with, I want to read the Google search results for Curtis Borman, Walnut Creek. Number 1, public defender calls for case review after revelation of Walnut Creek officers' dishonesty, KQED. Next, San Francisco Chronicle, April 5th, 2019. Walnut Creek officer kept job after mishandling evidence in dozens of cases. The Mercury News, April 5th, 2019. Walnut Creek cop falsified 31 police reports, kept job. Next, Panac News. Award-winning California cop falsified 31 police reports, keeps his job. Next, KPIX CBS SF Bay Area. Records show Walnut Creek cop mishandled dozens of cases. Next, Fox KTVU. Release of East Bay police transparency records show officers falsified reports, had sex on job. Next, KHSU. Records union sued to keep secret show police Walnut Creek, they have a typo in their headline, but essentially the police union sued to keep these reports secret, to keep the public from finding out about Curtis Borman. Finally, Contra Costa public defender wants review of all cases touched by Walnut Creek cop who filed false reports. And that is in the Stanford Law Journal. So the point I'm trying to make by reading all this is that those are only like the first 10 results. It just keeps going. There's like 4 pages of articles about this cop who's been falsifying police reports. And it's just shocking to me that he's still on the job. Having this office, yes?
Time is up.
Okay.
Tim Pennington.
Tim, I can hear funny sounds. Are you there?
I'm here.
Hey.
Can you hear me? My name is Tim Pennington. In the last council meeting, Councilwoman Silva rebutted accusations that she and Councilman Francois received campaign support from the Police Officers Association. Her rebuttal was disingenuous. While Ms. Silva is technically correct that the POA did not directly contribute to her campaign, she and Mr. Francois are fully aware that the POA's PAC spent over $13,000 in advertising supporting their candidacies and have over $30,000 remaining in their account for future elections. Another independent expenditure committee, funded largely by $1,000 plus contributions by the likes of the Contra Costa Board of Realtors, Park Smart, and developers, spent over $11,000 in support of Ms. Silva and Mr. Francois. While there is nothing illegal about the POA spending money to influence who is elected to council, that does not change the fact that they are providing a financial benefit to candidates, and the candidates are aware of the benefit. This creates a clear conflict of interest from the public's perspective, leading to questions such as, is it a coincidence that the only department spared in the budget was the one making election contributions? The POA's direct involvement in council elections is a recent phenomenon that has gone largely unnoticed. In the upcoming election, things will be different. The Miles Hall incident uncovered serious deficiencies in police policy and accountability for all to see. Correcting these deficiencies will require council involvement and will surely be resisted by the POA. To ensure a fair and independent consideration of these issues, it is in the best interests of the candidates, the POA, and the public if the POA stops the spending and the candidates do everything in their power to discourage the practice. Thank you.
Mayor, I don't see any more hands raised for public comment.
Thank you. I have been asked by a council member, there's one more.
Okay. Daniel Romer.
After this, I'm going to close public comment.
Good evening. Am I on?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to remind the Council that 4,500 people have signed a petition entitled Demilitarize Walnut Creek Police Response. And to refresh your memories, I'd like to read it this evening. We object to the treatment of nonviolent protesters at the June 1st, 2020 demonstrations in Walnut Creek and demand an immediate end to the use of military and escalatory tactics by the Walnut Creek Police Department. We oppose the use of military vehicles, rubber bullets, police dogs, and tear gas, as these tactics are inconsistent with our community values. Tear gas is banned under international law for use in war due to its dangerous health effects, which include death, lung disease, and now include fostering the spread of COVID-19. The use of tear gas, rubber bullets, military vehicles, police dogs, and other aggressive and escalatory tactics hold an ugly place in the history of the suppression of the civil rights movement in our country. They are unacceptable in policing peaceful petitioners seeking racial justice and criminal justice reform. We demand that Walnut Creek Police Department effective immediately use only nonviolent de-escalatory responses to peaceful demonstrators, to calls for mental health support, and to other nonviolent events, and that it require the same of its law enforcement partners. We call for the city management to enact policies to ban the use of these weapons of war against peaceful demonstrators, as well as in other nonviolent calls for police support or action. We call for the City Council to pass a resolution enacting a ban on military tactics and equipment. We call for discussion and action, including that this council put this on the agenda at a later City Council meeting. We oppose the militarization of the Walnut Creek Police, and thank you for your prompt action on this issue. Good evening.
Thank you. Okay. I see no, you confirm that, City Clerk?
I don't see any hands up.
Okay. A council member has asked for a break, so it is 8:07. Let's come back at 8:20. Welcome back to the June 21st regular council meeting. And actually, the next item on our agenda is council member and staff announcements, reports on activities or requests. City attorney, are there any closed session announcements?
Madam Mayor, there are no reportable actions from closed session this evening.
Thank you very much. City manager, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Dan Buckshire, City Manager. I want to provide an update related to COVID-19. We don't have a formal agenda update. I don't think there was enough in order to include a formal staff report. I do want to provide an update on what's occurred since we last met. I think hopefully, as everybody is aware, the number of cases has risen significantly, not only in California, not only in the country and in California, but in the Bay Area and Contra Costa as well. Contra Costa County, which obviously includes Walnut Creek, we are on the state's monitoring list because of the numbers that have changed, which means that the state could step in and take more restrictive action than what the county has done thus far. We are averaging about 125 cases per day throughout the county, and currently there are about 250 cases in Walnut Creek. Not surprisingly, but unfortunately, testing capacity remains a concern, and turnaround times are increasing because more people are desirous of being tested given the increase in numbers and the likelihood of additional potential exposures. The goal in the county is to be able to test 200 per 100,000 residents, 200 tests per 100,000 residents a day. And we're currently, our last 7-day average is about 175 in the county. So a little ways to go, not too far off, but even with that, with the spike in testing requests, the lag time is, at least a week or so is what I'm hearing on average, or at least 5-6 days. It's estimated that about 6% of those who are tested are testing positive, which is up considerably from where it was before. Back when this started, even at the peak, I think it peaked at about 2.5% previously. So we're pushing 2.5 to 3 times that amount. On July 13th, the governor did make additional changes, many of which were not relevant to Contra Costa County and Walnut Creek because we had not opened several of these activities. However, I do want to emphasize what is not allowed are dine-in restaurants, bars, wineries and tasting rooms, movie theaters, bowling alleys, arcades, zoos and museums, card rooms, fitness centers, and personal care services such as nail salons, tattoo parlors, and hair salons. However, the governor did announce just today that under a certain set of regulations that those latter few operations may be able to allow to operate outdoors, those being hair salons and barber shops. As I mentioned, none of these were previously open other than hair salons under the prior order, so not a big change for us, but it did preclude us from moving forward with potentially opening some of these activities. What was a change for us as of July 13th is that offices for non-essential business sectors, folks should be working from home as opposed to be working in offices as was previously allowed. And then indoor malls have changed. We don't necessarily have an indoor mall, so to speak, but it does impact retail shopping, obviously. In addition, there were major announcements from several of the school districts that operate within Walnut Creek and in and around the district. More specifically, that school will be remote starting in the fall and to a point that will be determined based upon health data or other factors. There is not a timeline for reopening schools in person at this point, at least for K through 12. And for some school districts, that was a change of course based upon what's occurred over the past few weeks. As an example, Mount Diablo Unified School District about 3 weeks to a month ago announced that they were going to be offering instruction 50% in the classroom in person and 50% at home. And they changed based upon the changing circumstances just last week to announce that all instruction will be done at home. So that's a big change. And I do want to highlight that is a huge milestone. and unfortunately not a positive one as far as reopening society goes. When we were looking at all of our different scenarios for what may play out into the future, all of those assumptions assumed that schools would be opening back in person, obviously in August. So we are tracking that closely, what that means more broadly in terms of the impact to workforces, not only our own, but others, in terms of childcare and or the ability, the need to help teach kids at home, and then also the economic impacts. If that's not allowed, what else is not allowed that might have been otherwise? So just want your council and the public to know we are tracking that closely from a budget and economic standpoint. On a slightly more positive note, we do have the rebound program. Anybody who has been downtown has seen that there are a lot of areas that are cordoned off for use by restaurants, whether it be the sidewalk or the street, so that folks can dine, those businesses can operate, which is an important aspect of getting society up and running again. There's been a lot of demand for business owners to be able to stay in business. This is not about generating sales tax for the city. It is about getting our society up and running and keeping people employed and keeping businesses afloat so that they don't go out and more people become destitute and or homeless. So a lot of activity. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, it was too successful, and we did have a number of businesses that were not following or enforcing the restrictions to wear or requirements to wear a mask, which really falls on all of us as individuals or anyone who visits downtown in that environment or elsewhere. We did take a fairly strong approach notifying businesses that if they don't comply, we will be shutting them down, at least for a period of time, because what's at risk if one business acts egregiously, it puts all businesses at risk. And that is not something that I hope occurs. As noted, we are on the governor's or the state's watch list. They are sending out strike teams to go investigate areas where there are calls. So my plea to everybody in the community or any visitors to downtown or elsewhere in Walnut Creek is please comply, not only for your own safety, but for everybody's safety, with the requirement to wear a mask, practice social distancing, practice good hygiene, so that hopefully we can make some positive progress with respect to coronavirus and continually reopen our society, which is, I think, what everybody would like to see. And as of now, that is the best thing we can do to not only support one another, but also support our employees that are employed throughout Walnut Creek, around the Bay Area, and our local business owners. So that is the latest with respect to coronavirus, and I'm available to answer any questions if your council has any. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Now we have council reports, and I was just about to ask Councilmember Waddell if he had anything to report, and he flashed off. So we will go to here he's back again. Would you like to make your report, Justin?
Sure. Sorry, I had to close my door. It's a little cold in here. A couple things to report. First, we had the MCE board meeting where we created we had a very good year last year, or a much better year than what we were expecting. So we created an additional operational reserve fund that will hopefully assist us in leveling out price changes in the future, so that we can keep our rates more consistent and, of course, be competitive with PG&E as a power provider. We also reviewed various programs, some of which I didn't know about. We have a huge program going out there to try to provide charging stations to multifamily residents. So if you are a multifamily resident owner, you can work with MCE in order to get rebates in order to provide charging stations for yourself and other individuals in your community. We also have discounts for smart thermostats, and it could even be free depending on your income level. So if you're looking to do any type of power enhancements at your home or multifamily properties or even commercial properties, please make sure that you check out the MCE website because there could be services and, of course, funding for you to promote and encourage individuals in your communities to leverage MCE and, of course, help out our environment. We'll also, in concurrence with my fellow council member, Kevin Wilk, who's on the Public Safety Subcommittee, and this will be of interest to many of the people speaking today, we will be having a Public Safety Subcommittee meeting next on the 29th, starting at 9:30. And there's going to be a myriad of, I would imagine it's going to be much longer than what was scheduled, but we're going to have a myriad of topics in which we're going to be discussing. We'll have a high-level discussion around the looting and protest activities that occurred in the beginning of June, and discuss additional topics that Mr. Wilk and I would like to have come back. In conjunction with that, we'll be having a high-level discussion about what, if any, services should we be looking at to move out of PD, if there are any, and have a discussion around that, and of course get public feedback. And then we'll go into detail around policies related to canines, tear gas, and other non-lethal weapons. Mr. Wilk had a suggestion to talk about BOLO devices, which I think will be interesting. And then also the use of SWAT vehicles for non-SWAT activities. And then going into a policy, more policy detail around the 8 can't wait items. We'll have a general review of that. There's 2 items that I was specifically found of interest, which were around de-escalation requirements, and then the use of force reporting, and I would really say transparency in general around how we can enhance or improve our transparency and reporting to the community around police activities. With that, Madam Mayor, I yield.
Thank you. Councilmember Francois.
Had a relatively quiet 2 weeks, Madam Mayor, so I have no reports.
Good for you. Councilmember Silva.
Thank you very much. A few things to mention. First, building on what the city manager reported regarding the rebound program. At the June 8th meeting of Walnut Creek downtown, I just wanted to report that the focus of the conversation was really how to get the downtown economy going. And not because, I will say what the city manager mentioned, not because of sales tax dollars for the city, but really because those are small businesses and they're small business owners and their employees. Many of them are hospitality workers, retail and restaurant workers, and their livelihoods have just been decimated. And so it was really important. And the members of the board of Walnut Creek Downtown were very appreciative of the work that the city was doing in conjunction with members of their committees on getting the economic vitality going again in downtown. I want to mention what was mentioned earlier and thank the mayor for representing us so well at the mayor's conference on July 9th. It's hard to get a discussion amongst 18 other city council members and mayors, and you did a great job, and I think you got it moving forward. It won't happen overnight, but it's the beginning of a process, so thank you. Today, I watched a presentation by East Bay Economic Development Alliance on the workplaces for coming back post-COVID, and I think there are things to be learned in those meetings on how we will move forward when bringing people back to work at City Hall as well. Last week, the League of Cities and the Department of Finance it went on for more than 2 hours webinar on how to access the CARES funding. And I'm really appreciative because we have about $800,000 available to us from the state, and the funding is available for things like homeless services and other things that we've been doing to either prevent the spread of COVID or economic recovery afterward. And finally, I will mention that the League of California Cities, I hope you all saw that they have going virtual for the annual conference in October. And there will be a pricing structure that allows us to have multiple attendees from Walnut Creek, not just city council, but staff as well. So for a single price, to try to make it as reasonably priced as possible so that we can learn from our colleagues all over the state and share items and issues on topics from housing, affordability and homelessness to wildfire prevention and management, and also to racial equity and social justice and finances post-COVID. So thank you very much, Mayor.
You're welcome. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. At the County Connection Board meeting, it was reported that ridership has improved from the low point, but we're still down about 60% from this time last year. Safety protocols are being strictly followed, and more messaging will be coming out in August. A lot of this depends upon the schools having students in class or not. And with the school districts currently having distance learning, updates will take this into consideration, but we don't expect the numbers to come back up to anywhere near where they were a year ago, certainly anytime soon. There's also going to be an update from the general manager, Bob Powers of BART, at the next Civic Affairs meeting for the Chamber of Commerce. And a lot of discussion regarding public transportation, safety protocols, and usage will be taking place during that time. As part of the ad hoc committee on rebounding Walnut Creek, on the art subcommittee and talking about ways that we are putting public art throughout the downtown area, helping to make it more attractive. And certainly there are some vacancies. We want to make sure that we're having art in different kind of places, a pop-up art that people can enjoy while they're downtown. And I'm glad that Councilmember Silva mentioned that the whole point of rebounding Walnut Creek downtown was in helping these businesses that are really struggling and their employees. And it was not to do with sales tax at all. This was to help our business and residents community who are working downtown and throughout Walnut Creek. I do want to say, in dovetailing with City Manager Buckshire regarding people social distancing and having proper safety protocols downtown, it's great that people want to come out, but please do wear your mask, social distance, whether you're at an establishment or in line. All the science has said, and we continue to hear across the country, if everybody wore a mask for 3 to 4 weeks, we would have much more control of COVID-19 and we could get back into more of a normalization. Doesn't mean it's all back to normal, but we'd be getting there. And as disturbing as some of the videos that we've seen across the country where people feel their freedoms are being compromised by doing this, I'm glad we haven't seen this, certainly in Walnut Creek. I haven't really seen it in the Bay Area. I hope that we don't. Let's just all wear masks and stay 5 or 6 feet apart when we're in public. We can get a hold on this, and September and October can be much better for everybody. So if everybody would please do that, that would be an enormous step in the right direction. And so there's my soapbox. And then I was with Mayor Haskew on our legislative committee. I'll allow Mayor Haskew to provide the update on that. But we reviewed a lot of the bills that are happening right now in Sacramento, keeping a watch on many of them that have to do with housing and a variety of other issues. So I don't want to take all of your thunder away, Mayor Haskew, but we had that one last week. And that's my report.
Okay. Actually, I was counting on you filling in the gaps.
Sorry. I can still fill in the gaps.
So the legislative committee did review the bills. There were a huge number of housing bills, and we still have a housing crisis in California, and legislature have some good ideas and some not so good ideas, and we're watching them. And we did review the 2 public safety initiatives that are happening at the state level. We were ready to support them, both of them, or at least bring it to council for support. But there have been some changes in them that make them less than attractive, and so we're watching them now instead of asking you to support them. And that was about it for the important stuff at the legislative committee. So I am on the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, and on the website, there is a really important opportunity to share information about projects that are happening on Innovate 680. And I'm going to give you the website, and as my tradition, I will repeat it. The website is ccta.net/projects/innovate-680. And it is an interactive survey about things that are happening on the Innovate 680 project. And there are even chances to record your statements for them to do some analysis. The good news about the work happening on the express lanes at 680, the silver lining for COVID is they are going to finish work a year earlier than they anticipated because fewer people have been on the roads for about until December, I think is the exact time. There will be carpool lanes that you can ride in for free if you're a qualified carpool. After that, then they're going to go to the toll road. So pay attention to it. There are some new street structures in terms of what you can and can't do on the freeway. There will be more data coming out as it gets closer and closer to opening the new part. At the sister organization, TransPAC, we reviewed our strategic plan for this year. It was completely smashed by COVID because some of the things that we were going to deal with were school transportation opportunities and trying to find ways to increase public transit and transit for the elderly and disabled. And because of COVID, we've had to relook at things. So we're reanalyzing what we can accomplish this year. And I think that's about it for me. And we're on.
I just have 2 points of clarification for less than 60 seconds, if you don't mind.
Okay. Would you please?
I just want to make clear that while we will be having this public safety subcommittee meeting, and it is an important discussion, just please note to the public that this is not a decision-making body. We can make referrals and recommendations to the city council, but Kevin Wilk or Mayor Pro Tem Wilk and I cannot make unilateral decisions. So just take that into account when you come to the meeting to set proper expectations. And for those of you that are interested in seeing the staff report will be released to the city website, much like what the city releases our meeting agenda for this meeting, no less than 2 days prior to the meeting. So please either sign up to the city website and you'll get alerts on it by email, or please check it 2 days beforehand and you'll be able to see the agenda. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Of course. All right, I think we're ready to move on to the public hearing. Next on the agenda is the public hearing for the 2019-2020 annual action plan substantial amendment to include the CDBG-CV funding allocations, and the amended citizen participation plan. At this time, I invite the staff to make a presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. I hope you guys can hear me.
I can.
Can I please share my screen? Okay. See the presentation? Okay then. Good evening, Mayor Haskew and members of the council. My name is Shalana Vian, and I am the city's Affordable Housing and Grant Coordinator. Tonight, I'll be presenting on 2 agenda items, but my first staff report will be on the Community Development Block Grant Substantial Amendment for the 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan to include the CDBG stimulus funds. In March of 2020, Congress passed the CARES Act in response to the growing effects of the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. The CDBG program received an additional allocation of $5 billion, with Walnut Creek receiving an allocation of $201,000 to prepare for and aid in the prevention of COVID-19. This additional funding is also called the CDBG CV funds or CDBG stimulus. Since the funds will pass through the CDBG program, any activities funded must meet one of the 3 national objectives, which are serving low and moderate income persons up to 80% of the area median income, aiding in slum or blight areas, and in times of urgent need. So, category of serving low and moderate income persons, can easily be spent under this category, and it's typically how we operate our entitlement program. And then for aiding in slum or blight areas, it wouldn't be a good fit for the program because Walnut Creek doesn't have any designated areas for this. And then the last category is in times of urgent need. So when we think of that, we think of natural disasters like an earthquake or a tornado, but it would also work for the coronavirus also. But of these three categories, 70% of the funds must go towards benefiting low and moderate income persons minus program admin costs. So due to the urgencies around the funds and the need to allocate them quickly, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, has also waived some of the CDBG regulations. So that includes waiving the 15% public services cap for the CDBG stimulus funds, 2019 and 2020 entitlement funds. HUD is also allowing for retroactive reimbursements. So for example, even if we enter in a contract with a subrecipient July 21st, they could request a reimbursement going back until March or when they can first tie it to COVID-19. And lastly, HUD is allowing for a 30-day public comment period to be truncated to a minimum of 5 days. And that has allowed staff to bring this item quickly to council. So after housing staff learned more about how these funds could be expended, housing staff hosted an interdepartmental meeting between the Arts and Recreation Department and the Economic Development team. And from that conversation, the Arts and Recreation let us know about their senior care program, which is recommended for tonight's meeting, and that will be discussed in another slide. And then we also explore the option about providing small grants, loans for micro enterprises or for-profit businesses. But due to the stringent nature of the CDBG regulations, along with the high administrative burden, staff did not pursue this at the time. Housing staff also participates in weekly and bi-weekly consortium check-ins. The city of Walnut Creek is a member of the Contra Costa Consortium made up of other entitlement jurisdictions like the cities of Antioch, Concord, Pittsburgh, and the county. And then weekly check-ins, we discussed about what each jurisdiction is funding for the CDBG CV funds. Most, if not all, are also funding for food provision or emergency rental utility assistance. And on July 2nd, the Housing and Community Development Committee, made up of Mayor Haskew and Council Member Francois, reviewed and came up with a funding recommendation for the CDBG CV funds. So the HCD committee is recommending the following for the CDBG funds. It includes emergency rental utility assistance, senior program, and homeless programs. So for the emergency rental utility assistance program, in support of the county's moratorium and with the rise of unemployment, we understand the importance of keeping people housed during these difficult times. And when the moratorium expires, we expect that there will be a huge increase in need for this service. So we are recommending St. Vincent de Paul and Shelter Inc. for this. For senior programming, seniors are one of the most vulnerable populations to the coronavirus, and many are reluctant to go outside and may be facing some social isolation issues or mental health issues. So out of concern for this, the Arts and Recreation Senior Care Support Team, and to just name a few things they do, it includes staffing a senior resource hotline, coordinating volunteers for delivering household necessities, and also performing senior wellness calls. The last program HCD is recommending for funding is the Safe Parking Program. To aid in the prevention of COVID-19, we understand the importance of keeping people in shelter, even if it's in the form of a car. When the winter evening shelter closed in March, some individuals returned to their cars for shelter. So the Safe Parking Program allows individuals a safe place to sleep and access the restrooms. So the HCD committee is recommending that City Council adopts the attached resolution, which approves of the 2025, approve of the substantial amendment to the 1920 Annual Action Plan to include the CDBG CV funding plan. And with that said, that is the end of my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I'm looking at council. Does anybody have any questions? I'm not seeing any questions. And so, any comments? None. All right. Is there any public comment regarding this issue?
We do have public comment on this item.
Okay.
Lucas Carboni. Yeah, let's.
Hi. This is just real quick. I didn't have anything prepared, but I wasn't really anticipating comment being available. But since it came up, I do know that the representative talked about threat of evictions, and I just wanted to highlight that I would really recommend that the city adopt an eviction moratorium. I understand that right now this is just being covered at the county level, and that that's effective through September 30th. But I know Oakland has had an eviction moratorium. And so I think we should do that. Thank you.
You squeezed it in. That is not on topic. Appreciate that you tried, but please don't do that again. All right. Is there?
We have more.
Okay.
Michael Sampson.
I wasn't going to speak, but first I just want to note that I agree with everything Lucas said. I think Lucas is obviously very smart, very well prepared, and I would appreciate it if this city council, especially Mayor Haskew, if you would not speak in such a condescending way to young people, because I've been seeing that since June 16th, that when young people speak, you don't assume that they are as capable or smart, when it is in fact the young people who have been bringing the most intelligence to this conversation.
I'm going to stop you there because that is a very rude thing to say, and I do not condescend to young people. They're my favorite class of people. Keep going, Michael.
I encourage anybody to watch things that Luella Haskew has said in the past. After young people have spoken, there's a consistent, I'm talking for weeks, we've been seeing condescending ways of talking to young people. And I tweeted about it on June 16th even. So this has been a longstanding issue. I encourage you to listen to the young people in your community because they're very smart. They're prepared to meet this moment. It seems like this city council is not. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
We have Joshua.
Hi, I was also not planning to speak until the way you handled Lucas's comments. This is a fund where the majority of the money is going into homelessness support. I don't see how a comment on preventing creating more homeless people in the city is off topic. It's exactly on topic, and that you would cut him off in that matter is it's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. But I will use this time to echo Lucas's comments very clearly that we should have a city level moratorium on evictions. This is not the time in the middle of a pandemic, which is ravaging the cities and the nation's residents. Many people are falling behind on payments.
Joshua, this is supposed to be in relationship to the CDBG grants. That has nothing to do with what you're requesting. That should have been in public comment.
This has, I respectfully disagree. This has everything to do with the need for homelessness, and it's part of this conversation. And I hope you can clearly see the connection between lessening the number of homeless people in Walnut Creek and spending money on a grant program to also lessen homelessness. So they go together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I don't see any additional hands raised.
You're done.
Thank you. Bringing it back to council. Do you have any questions or comments? If not, yes.
I will be happy to say that I thank the Housing and Community Development Committee, which is the mayor and Councilmember Francois, for your work on this with city staff. We're very fortunate to have the additional $200,000 in order to be able to dedicate it toward these programs. There is an abundant need for these programs, and I'm glad we're able to continue our work in that arena, and I'm happy to make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a question. Well,
Mayor Pro Tem, please.
I just wanted to follow up on a couple of the comments because I just want to clarify it for myself. The county has actually banned evictions, haven't they? And Walnut Creek follows along with that. So it's not something that we're setting a city policy separately. The county has already set that policy. Is that correct?
That is correct. The county has adopted a policy already, and it does apply in Walnut Creek.
Okay. I just want to be sure. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion. Did I hear a second?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I seconded the motion.
Thank you very much. May I have a roll call?
Councilmember Silva.
Aye.
Councilmember Waddell.
Aye.
Councilmember Francois.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Walk.
Aye.
Mayor Haskew.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
All righty. Then we're moving on to the second part of the item.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. So good evening again, Mayor Haskew and members of the council. For the record, my name is Shalina Vian, and I am the city's Affordable Housing and Grants Coordinator. So for the second presentation, I will be talking about the Community Development Block Grant Substantial Amendment for the 2025 Consolidated Plan and 2021 Annual Action Plan. This substantial amendment will include a revised funding plan for the fiscal year 2021 for the Community Development Block Grant, Community Services Grant, Homeless Services Fund, and also the School Crisis Counselor Program, along with additional CDBG funding recommendations. So to start off with some background information, as you may remember, on May 5th, City Council approved of the 2025 Consolidated Plan, One-Year Annual Action Plan, and the CDBG, CSG, and HSF funding plan contingent upon the fiscal year 2021 general fund budget. In late May, housing staff also received about $51,000 in CDBG program income through loan repayments. And then that brings us down to July 7th, when City Council adopted the fiscal year 2021 general fund budget adoption, which included closing a budget gap of $12.1 million. Some of those budget balancing solutions included a 14% reduction in the Community Services Grant and also the School Crisis Counselor Program, along with changes to the Homeless Services Fund. And then that brings us to today's meeting, where staff is proposing a substantial amendment to the 2025 Consolidated Plan and 2021 Annual Action Plan. This substantial amendment will include a revised funding plan for 2021 CDBG, CSG, and HSF programs, and separately also funding recommendations for the School Crisis Counselor Program. So this slide here shows the funding allocations for the programs before and after the budget adoption. So for the Community Services Grant and the School Crisis Counselor Program, there was a 14% reduction in funding allocation. While for the Homeless Services Fund, that was able to remain intact due to a new funding source called the Permanent Local Housing Allocation, and also $70,000 from the General Fund. So after the budget was adopted, and because the CSG and HSF programs augment the CDBG program, staff had to revisit the three funding sources to balance the budget. So the HCD committee is recommending a funding plan that maintains the funding amount for all outside agencies, and some budget balancing solutions include using unallocated dollars from CDBG, CDBG program income, and also HSF funds. And what really helped was for CDBG, the 15% public services cap was waived for programs specifically addressing COVID-19. So from that, only one program was slated for reduction, which is the homeless outreach and education through the homeless task force. And the funds were going to be used for community outreach events like tabling and the forums. But due to COVID-19, staff anticipates that less in-person outreach would occur and that it would move remotely, so it would be also less costly. And staff would like to note that although the budget gap was mitigated for fiscal year 2021, we do see a budget gap in fiscal year 2021-22. And that's because these funding cycles work on a 2-year and 3-year alternative funding cycle. So typically in year 1, funding recommendations carry forward into year 2. But with the CSG decrease in funding allocation, along with the 15% public services cap no longer being waived, we will see a budget gap and we will have to revisit a funding plan then. And for the School Crisis Counselor program, the ACD committee is recommending a revised funding plan with a 14% reduction in allocation. So instead of decreasing the schools and school districts equally, staff reviewed past performances. So ACD committee is recommending the following allocation that was included as an attachment. So after budgeting the balance, after balancing the budget, we also had some funds left over that was unallocated from the CDBG program income. And because there has been an increase in need for public services, along with the 15% public services cap being waived, the ACD committee is also recommending additional programs with the program income for emergency rental utility assistance and also food provisions. So for the emergency rental and utility assistance, staff anticipates a greater need once the moratorium expires. So we are recommending St. Vincent de Paul an additional $10,000. And then for food provisions, food hunger is a growing concern during these difficult times, and food pantry services are at an all-time high. Monument Crisis Center has seen a 263% increase, while for Meals on Wheels has also seen a 17% increase in usage. So the ACD committee is recommending that City Council adopts the attached resolution, which approves of the 2025 Consolidated Plan, 2021 Annual Action Plan, and the fiscal year 2021 funding plan for the CDBG, CSG, HSF, and School Crisis Counselor program. And with that being said, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Does council have any questions? Councilmember Silva.
Thank you very much. I know you met a few weeks ago, or the committee did, and looked at staff's recommendations. As you have thought about it subsequently, it appears that we are getting additional funds from the state that really came from the CARES Act, the state's allocation. And among the ways you can use these funds are to support homeless services. Have you thought about the ability to implement that? I don't think you have to take it through the CDBG, but it may be able to augment some of the things that we're doing with our CDBG funds. And I don't know, maybe Margot wants to think about that.
Yeah. Did you, would you like a response to that at this time, or is that just a recommendation?
I'm hoping we're getting on that.
Yeah. So yeah, there's certainly a team of staff who are working on that CARES Act funding, and homeless services is one of the things, and that is part of the discussion. But because it's not limited to low and moderate income, and it's specifically for COVID, there's a lot of other areas too that it can fund. And
right.
So
exactly,
discussions are underway, and I'm not sure if anyone else on the panel wants to respond to that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments? Not seeing any, I will now ask for public comment.
Sorry, I don't. Leslie Gleason, Trinity Center.
Hi. As one of many of the service providers who will be funded through these funds, we just want to reiterate our ongoing appreciation of the work of City Council and city staff to manage and help support all the agencies during these very difficult and rapidly changing times. So on behalf of all of us, thank you very much for all the work that's gone into these recommendations.
Thank you. Any more?
I don't see any additional hands raised.
Okay, I will close public comment and bring it back to council. Any comments or additional questions?
Madam Mayor, I move adoption of the resolution approving the fiscal year 2020 to 2025 con plan.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Francois.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilk.
Aye.
Councilmember Silva.
Aye.
Councilmember Waddell.
Aye.
Mayor Haskew.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, unless there are any extraneous comments, this meeting is now adjourned and we will meet again in our next regular meeting scheduled September 1st. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.